I'm pretty much.
I like John's like, I've never not landed a client.
Oh man, I wish, right?
Just because I know everyone's excited for this since we have, everyone knows these guys. Do we even need an introduction? Everyone knows Peyton, mastermind behind this group, John D. Saunders, super successful Webflow agency owner and stuff. And today's topic is one I know everyone cares about, including myself, which is how to find web design clients. And so, yeah, just gonna wait a few more seconds. 1, 2, that was a few seconds. And so let's go ahead and jump into things. I'm gonna change this view a little. As all you guys know, we brought a super special guest with us today, John D. Saunders. He's the owner of 54 Digital, a web design agency that specializes in designing Webflow websites and also branding for startups. And he also started another kind of subsection of his 54 Digital, which is 54 Indie, I believe it's called, which now specializes in for gaming companies, right?
Yes, definitely. Oh, you done your homework, man. I love it.
Yes, man. Yes. So super successful, man. A lot of you know him from his YouTube videos, his Instagram posts, his rocking on social media, and so forth. And then we also have Peyton Clark-Smith, owner of Paid Academy, Paid Digital, guy behind this SEO and Webflow Facebook group, and all around awesome person as well. And today I'm gonna be asking them a bunch of questions, try to pick their brains, get as much information as I can today about how to find web design and SEO clients. That way it benefits all of us. So getting right into things, I know I kind of gave a little introduction, John, but I was wondering if you could kind of introduce yourself and just let us know how you got into web design and maybe even why you got into web design and chose that as a business.
Absolutely. So, first I got to preface that with, thanking both of you, Peyton, Fernando, for having me on the show. Peyton and I have talked a lot just about Webflow and web design as a whole. So thank you guys for, creating this platform and providing value to the Webflow community. I started in this game. I was like 19 years old. I had built a website in WordPress, and man, it was a game changer because back then, it was a tool where if you knew a little bit of HTML and CSS, you could really build out these really cool websites. And so my journey really started with building a website for my mom. She was a teacher and she wanted to tutor locally. So I built out that site. And as soon as I did, it clicked because I was at a point where I was like, I could have this idea and make it tangible through website design. So, fast forward to now, I worked at an agency for 4 years, and then I branched out on my own about 7 years ago. And when I started my agency, web design was just one of our services. And we were doing SEO, SEM, Facebook ads, just everything under the sun. And where I really benefited and saw a lot of value from was creating these dynamic websites for businesses that need to go digital. And so 3 years ago, we decided to go all in on that. And that's when I found out about Webflow. So essentially, it was a video by Rand Siegel, who we all know. I saw on YouTube, and I'm like, yo, who is this guy? What is this like Wix copy that he's talking about? Like, I'm not messing with this. I don't need another website builder. I'm gonna stick to WordPress. But then I just kept seeing the videos and I was like, you know what, let me just try it out. So I built out like a personal site on Webflow and I was like, yo, this is dope. Like I can build out this site in like a couple of days. It's dynamic, it loads fast. And as you know, for organic SEO, it's literally HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's super fast. So once that happened, I was hooked, man. And, fast forward to now, I'm just happy to be a part of this ecosystem to create resources and clonables on Webflow. And just, man, a lot of companies are waking up and seeing how powerful the tool is.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. It's been a game changer for my business, and I know Peyton will say the exact same thing about his business when it comes to discovering Webflow. So we're all in agreement with you. Webflow is awesome, and I love all this. So that's a little bit of why I want to jump into this question. So do you remember how you found your first web design client, John? And do you remember who it was?
I do, man. It's so funny. It was a pest control company. This was like this had to be like, I'm old, guys. I'm like 35. So this was like 13 years ago, something like that. I think, no, I was at the agency. So maybe it was like around 9 or 10 years ago. But ultimately, this pest control company came in and they're like, hey, we need help with your website, social media. So I was like, all right, bet $500. I'll do your website. I'll run your social media for 6 months. Guys, listen, don't, it was horrible, man, the pricing, but I was so excited to do it. I booked that client and man, I was just so excited. So that was my first kind of foray into a paid web design client, but my pricing was just horrible back then.
Dude, something about pest control websites, man. I feel like those were some of my first, and I can't say no to them because they're like awesome to work with. But it took me a long time too to get my pricing figured out. I was charging like hundreds when I should have been charging thousands. And looking back, I'm like, dude, what was I doing? Like, such a mistake.
I feel you, man. I feel you. But it's learning pains, right? Growing pains.
Right.
So that's a little mistake, you know, so starting off. And that kind of leads into my next question I was going to ask both of you guys right now. So quick, getting some advice out of the way. If you were to go back in time right now, John and Peyton, what's one piece of advice you would give yourself when you were first starting? And John, you could take it off.
You want me to go first? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd probably say two things. One would be to like create systems earlier in the agency, because I think a lot of people, especially as freelancers, they feel like, oh, well, I'm doing all this myself. Why do I need to create systems when it's just me? You know, I can't afford to build out a team. But I think that systems help you create a proprietary way of doing things, right? And that's almost like your IP. So you can use that process to be able to delegate when you're ready to hire. You can use that process to systematize your business and sell that as a course. I mean, there's so many revenue streams in regards to building out those systems. So one, I wish I would have built out my systems earlier so that I could start to delegate. And then two, charge more. You know, I definitely was at a point where I was probably going through imposter syndrome. You know, you feel like, hey, how can I charge that much when, you know, I'm not amazing at what I do yet? When in reality, you're 100% times better than the average business owner, because they're focused on their business. So those are two things from me, I'd say.
Awesome. Yeah, I would second both of those things. Those are two things that going back, I feel like I could have accelerated both of those. So I feel like that would be my overall advice to myself, is just grow faster than I'm comfortable with, right? Like raise my prices faster than I'm ready for or I'm comfortable with, and take on projects that I might feel like are maybe too big for me right now. Just do it. Just say yes. And I think I spent a lot of time kind of in the comfort zone, just doing, you know, projects that I was comfortable with and charging what I knew they would say yes to. And I didn't really push things like I should have. I didn't put systems in place early enough. I didn't hire people early enough. I think I spent too long being content, when in reality, there's nothing, like there's no ceiling on this, right? Like we could do and grow as fast as we want to. And really the only thing holding us back is our effort and our mindset. So I would tell myself that, coupled with be patient enough to not feel frustrated and want to give up, right? Like we want to push it as hard and fast as we can. But also it's going to be tough the first few months. And there were several times where I'm like, I can't feed my family on a $500 website every other month. And that's intimidating, right? And it's scary. And so it's going to be exponential growth. So be patient at first, but once you catch your stride, man, just go after it. I wish I would have done that more.
Love that. It's great
I
advice.
love it. Some really great advice in there, you guys. And two things I kind of want to piggyback off of that is, one, I really want to emphasize what John said about putting systems and processes in your business, especially even if you're a solopreneur and doing it on yourself. You know, I do it by myself. I don't have a team behind me really like these two gentlemen do, but the systems and processes that I've personally learned from John and stuff, you know, have really changed my business. So definitely want everyone to hear that. And the second thing I heard was the word imposter syndrome. And that's actually a question I wanted to ask you guys about. I know a lot of people are kind of have imposter syndrome, and I wanted to ask you guys, as two people who are pretty successful, really successful actually, do you two still suffer with imposter syndromes yourselves? And if so, do you guys have any tips for kind of overcoming that? And maybe we could start off with John again.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's hard, man, because even of course, full transparency, even some days now I'm like, damn, you know, is this something in my wheelhouse that we could do? And so I think that we all suffer from imposter syndrome at one time or the other. But I think the ultimate thing that we can do is to just continue to keep learning. I think just like just like Peyton said, you know, sometimes you're not super comfortable with it, but you got to kind of go with it anyway. And I feel like the best founders and the best leaders are always trying to learn and absorb more and be able to take that information and formulate it into something that your team can benefit from. So for me, to kind of avoid that imposter syndrome, things that I do is anytime we sign a new client, I'll get 2 new books, right? And I'll try to learn and absorb those things that I'm taking into those books and implement that in the agency. Another piece is just empowering our team. You know, we provide a stipend where folks can take classes and courses from like The Future or Peyton or anyone that's out there that's providing a ton of value. I think that helps you become more comfortable as an agency owner or as a freelancer, where you feel comfortable in your ability because you're taking the time to learn and absorb these skills. Nowadays, there's no excuse. You got YouTube. Google just released a UX course. I mean, there's no excuse right now not to stay ahead of the curve. And one of the things with web design and just having an agency and being a part of that is that you have to make sure that you're staying ahead. Case in point, Webflow, right? The fact that we got on Webflow when it was at the cusp of blowing up, now you have all these companies, these startups, these folks that are finding out about Webflow, and guess where they're going? They're going to the Webflow expert platform to hire an expert agency, because they know those are people that have put in the work and the ability to then have the ability to excel. And so now, and I hate to use the word blue ocean, but Webflow is pretty much a blue ocean, because if you put it in the perspective of how many people understand and can utilize Webflow, there aren't that many.
I love it. And then maybe if you want to piggyback off of that, Peyton.
Yeah, man, I love that. I agree. It's that's the crazy thing about our job, right? Is we're learning new things every day. No day is ever the same, which is good for me. I feel like that's what I need to kind of keep motivated. And it's fun to wake up and be like, today's going to be different than any other day before. But constantly learning and not being too rigid in what you're doing now, because tomorrow it could be different. And I think John does a great job of kind of setting up his systems in a way where, they're flexible, right? Like that's why we have systems. So we know everything that happens at our agency. So then we can pivot really quickly. But yeah, just constantly learning, I think, is huge. And then the one thing that I always have to tell myself, because I struggle with imposter syndrome all the time, right? Like we're always pushing ourselves for bigger clients and higher price points. And now we're putting out courses, which is something that's way outside my comfort zone. And every time I do something that makes me feel that way, I just tell myself, you just got to show up, right? Like you just got to say yes, and you got to show up, because I know that once I get put in that situation where I'm uncomfortable, it's going to work out, right? All you got to do is just show up. And there's going to be days where you don't feel like showing up, but you just got to do it, right? You take that Zoom call, you make that sales call, you put out that video, whatever it is, even if you feel like you are not qualified or you're not good enough, just show up, and it's going to work out. And I feel like you can always fall back on just being genuine and authentic and honest with the people you work with, and nothing's ever going to go south, right? Like as long as people know they can trust you and you're doing your best, you've got nothing to worry about.
Absolutely. 100%.
Super great. And I just want to take a little pause right here and let you guys know we have a lot of people commenting on this video as of right now. So we have a good viewership. I want to thank everyone who's commenting and watching right now for tuning in with you guys. Super awesome. Raymond, Adrian, Wadness, Jennifer, Tad, Rishak, so on and so forth. I missed your name. Sorry. Thank you guys so much. And I just want to know if you guys have any questions for either John or Peyton, please go ahead and comment those as well. We'll make sure to get to them in this video. I'll be monitoring the comments throughout this whole video as we do that. And so with that, let's continue moving forward. So finding web design clients is the topic of today. But before we get into that, I think it's super important to talk about setting up your business for success and readying it for the ability to scale. Because if you have an influx of clients coming in, you want to make sure you have your systems, your processes in place so you can take care of those clients. You can provide excellent customer service to them. You could deliver, top tier results and so forth. And so let's kind of start right there. And I know, John, you are the master, the wizard behind setting up processes, SOPs, and scaling your business. So I wanted to hand it off to you and just give, the question, what are some things that everyone should be doing in order to set their business up for success, for when the time comes, they're able to handle all the clients that they get?
Fernando, to answer your question, I'm a huge proponent of standard operating procedures, and I talk about SOPs all the time. And it's just like Peyton said, they're flexible. They're almost like flexible rules for your business. And essentially, you're creating a knowledge base of how to run all the different facets of your business. And it's just extremely helpful in growing. And in one example, we just hired our first account executive, and she works remote. She's in Cali, on the West Coast. And what we did was we set up like the agency process for her to understand, hey, this is how we do onboarding, with video training and step-by-step directions on how to get it done. And so by creating these systems, what it does is it mitigates issues in regards to the client, because if you're following like steps, you're not really kind of winging it. You're kind of following these steps in detail. It makes it easier for you to get things done. You're able to mitigate any issues you might have on the agency side and facilitating some of these things. And then it just makes it easier for team members, right? So as you grow, even if you're a one-person team or you're making your first hire, if you have these systems in place, you can literally take that, gift wrap it, and give it to a team member, and they can start to create and complete these items while you work and focus on big picture. So at this point now, I'm not really in the Webflow Designer doing and facilitating the work now, right? I've created the systems and now I'm delegating that. So it's almost like duplicating yourself and giving another version of yourself this kind of proprietary information that you created at your agency and building and scaling that way. So as we bring on new clients, the process is simplified. And then it's also, and I'll end with this, it also leads to finding issues in your agency. So if you see like an SOP, someone's like, hey, this isn't really working well. Okay, let's go back and refine it. For example, we have like our design process. When the designers upload a project, they upload it to Asana, and then they get notified in Slack that it's been updated. We kind of tweaked this process because sometimes things were getting lost in the mix. We weren't seeing updates. And so it just helps you refine your business and make it even better. And last thing is, if you do this, you can build your business to sell, one, right? Because people want to buy those proprietary things. And then like Peyton says, he's launching courses. I guarantee you, Peyton, you're probably launching those courses based on the process that you created at your agency. And you're literally gift wrapping it and saying, hey guys, this is exactly what we do. And now, not only can you sell to other clients, but now you can sell to other agency owners and help them grow as well. I know that was long-winded, my bad. Get excited.
No, that's
not at all.
We're just gonna give John the rest of the time because I'm like, yeah, man, I'm learning a lot already. So no, I absolutely second that. That's so true, because once you get the system down, you're set, right? You can put your focus elsewhere. That was what happened to me. Is I had my pipeline, which really got clogged up after like one or two clients. And then I'm in there trying to fix things and figure things out. And I don't have time to land new clients or to hire people. And so you've got to have at least enough set up to where you can move a little bit of that focus elsewhere and work on other money, revenue generating activities.
So true. So true.
Super love that. And as part of setting up the processes and being able to, develop these SOPs and create a repeatable process that you could deliver to clients day in and day out, I think a big part of that is, really focusing and narrowing in on the services that you're providing as a whole. And I know both of you as agency owners are really focused on it, paid in. It's Webflow design and SEO. And that's, that's it right there. And then for John, it's Webflow design and branding for his startups. And that's it right there. And so I was wondering if you could touch on the importance of really, instead of trying to be one of those who deliver every single service under the sun, PPC, SEO, branding, web design, logo design, everything so forth, how has focusing and narrowing down your product and services really helped you be able to blow up? We can start again.
You can dive in on this one.
Yeah.
I'll follow up.
Yeah. So that's a really good question, because I think it goes hand in hand with what we just talked about, where if you're trying to do a million different things, there's no way to systematize that, right? Like, you're not going to be able to package things up and systematize and get your processes and your systems in order if every single client is a new combination of 8 or 9 different services, right? That's just really hard to scale. And it's hard to prepare a team for that when every single project is too vastly different from the last one or the next one. And so narrowing in, even though it might feel like you're limiting, the potential prospects that you could reach or the money that you could generate, in the long run, it's going to be much more profitable and beneficial. And it's going to be a lot less stressful to just have those things that you do well. And then outside of that, like, you can still take on other things, right? Like, I'm always working on random side projects and improving my skills and offering different services. But when it comes to your agency or your business, kind of focus on what you do best, that one or two things, and then really dial that in, because I would much rather be, super good at one thing that generates a fair amount of revenue, but my life is much easier, than try to do 3 things to generate a little more revenue, but have my life be a mess and never see my family. And so you got to kind of weigh those pros and cons. But without a doubt, the more you can narrow and focus in, your life's going to be better all across the board. And then you can raise your rates on those 1 or 2 services, because you are becoming the go-to for those things.
Man, listen, that was, I don't even have anything to add there, because that's exactly what I was thinking. When you dial in and you become a specialist, one, you can charge a premium because you're focused on one specific area and focus of where all of your efforts lie. And so it's like Peyton said, now you're able to go 100% in on just those few skills. You become a specialist and people just come to you for that. And you can systematize it to the point where you have every part of that agency process set. And that's it, man. I mean, that was a flawless answer. I don't have anything else to add.
Mhm. And with that answer, talking about services, so we did have a question come up from Sanad. And Peyton, maybe if you could answer this one. They asked, what service, in your opinion, is more profitable, web design or SEO?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Man,
Yeah,
I think my answer would change day to day because some months we'll bring on 4 or 5 new web design projects, and I'm like, man, like this is really profitable. But you have the longevity of SEO agreements that can't be beat, right? Like, I love that monthly consistent income. So what I would say is, if you're ready right now to like push and drive and generate tons of new design and development clients every single month, that could probably be the most profitable right now. But long term, right? Like I've got a couple SEO clients that are signed to 3-year agreements that I know for the next 3 years, my base income, which is really nice. So I think either can be extremely profitable. I think it just depends on where you're at and what you're looking for.
Love it. Great answer. And, each of them has their pros and cons. And like Peyton said, it could kind of differ from month to month, but they're definitely a great combination to have in your business. And so with that, let's start jumping into a bit of this. Actually, this is a really good question, I think, for a lead way. So Juanes asked, before you went full-time in your business, how did you manage your 9-to-5 job if you had one? He says he's in the process of building his business and wants to be realistic on how he can run it while having a full-time job. So I'm not sure if anyone of you specifically want to take this one, but I thought that was a really good question.
I want to hear from John on this one.
Yeah, definitely. So I worked at an advertising agency called Permanent Advertising here in South Florida for about 4 years. And I moved up in the company. I became digital marketing director. And, we were doing a lot of UI UX builds for like the automotive industry. We were doing a lot of SEO, SEM, and then Facebook ads in its infancy. And so we dealt with primarily automotive clients. And I wanted to branch out and work with more startups, more grassroots companies. So when I left, I actually got a part-time job at an exotic car rental company, which here in South Florida called MPH Club, which was super dope. I got to drive like all the exotics, which was awesome. And what I did was, while I was there, I would work on my side hustle at night. So I would essentially, and I was younger, I didn't have any kids. I had my wife and we would live together, but I would work from about like 10 p.m. to like 1 to 2 a.m. And then in the morning, I would wake up a little bit early and work about an hour, hour and a half. And so if you count that out, you're looking at maybe 15 to 20 hours additional a week on the weekdays. And then I could take some time on the weekends to facilitate that. So while I was there, I was doing a lot of content marketing. So I was doing YouTube videos. I was doing a ton of events, like any events that I could go to, whether virtual or in person. I was going there and I was showing up and I was saying, hey, and I'm an introvert. So this took a lot to go out there and talk to people. I think creating YouTube videos helped. And so in that, while you're working a 9 to 5, I'm not saying to go super hard, because that's what I did. When I was at the agency, I was working from 8 to 7. I'd work till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I actually fell asleep at the wheel while driving to work one day and woke up on the side of the road. And I was like, man, I gotta fix this. So don't overexert yourself to the point where you can't get your creative juices out, but allocate a few hours a day to your side hustle and make sure that you're creating a local ecosystem of potential clients that you can always collaborate with in the future.
Love it. Did you have anything to add on to that, Peyton, or?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like John's stories are reminding me a lot of my time. And I didn't have a job, but I was in college, and college was a lot easier to like shirk my responsibilities and just do what I wanted to do. But I remember very vividly, like in my classes, I wasn't working on classwork, right? I remember sitting in my class, like working on my own personal website, and teachers being like, what are you doing? Like, this isn't, this has nothing to do with classwork or anything. And then I'm like hesitant to tell this story because I don't know, like I feel kind of weird talking about being on pain meds, but I broke my ankle and I had surgery. And so I was out for like a few months. and I got put on some pain meds that I couldn't sleep when I was on them. But I felt great. I felt super locked in. And so I was like, I'll just stay up all night. And so I went through a period of a couple months of college where I wasn't going to class. I kind of got a free pass from class and I was just doing everything, in my apartment. And I remember staying up every single night. Like I was researching, I was looking into affiliate marketing and digital marketing and all these different things. But I remember like once I really got hooked, like John, I couldn't sleep. I want to stay up late and I want to wake up early. And so it's tough. Like it's going to be a sacrifice. Certainly don't run yourself into the ground. But I remember that time really fondly because it was the time where I had an excuse to just kind of put everything else in my life on hold to pursue something that I was really passionate about. And that's the only reason that I found, and ended up where I am right now, building Webflow sites and running SEO campaigns, is because that ankle surgery kind of forced me into that position where I was just going to, I was going to take the time and stay up late and find what I wanted to do.
I love it. I love it. And so for the kind of last part of this, making sure we set up our agency for success, the one thing I wanted to make sure we quickly touched on is about team members and stuff. And so I have two questions. I think I had one off to John and one off to Peyton, and one of them actually came in from Raymond, who's watching right now. So John, the question I wanted to ask you was, how do you go about finding kick-ass team members? And after that, I was going to ask Peyton a question by Raymond, and he asked, how do you make the decision to bring on more staff when the current budget is extremely tight? So maybe when you're first starting out and so forth. So John, to start with your question, how do you find kick-ass team members to help run your agency?
Yeah, it's in a few ways. One, if in our space for UI, UX designers, developers, I'm always looking at what's going on locally and who's out there kind of making waves. The great thing about me is I'm a creative, so I can tell if someone's has the skills that they can grow and develop. So for me, I'm not necessarily looking at, hey, is this person an ultimate hire that's going to have everything that I need out of the gate? I look more so for, do they have potential? Are they looking to grow and develop their skills? Do they have the drive and creativity to really take it to the next level? And so I start with like a quick questionnaire, maybe 5 to 6 questions about like, hey, what inspires you in regards to your design? And this is talking about, maybe we're talking about a wireframe designer, for example, right? Or a digital designer. What are some of the projects that you've worked on? And even if they don't have a huge book of work and I see potential, I feel like, and again, going back to SOPs, I can teach them our operating procedures and help them build. Like, for example, our visual design lead, AB, he's been with us about 3 years, and man, he's phenomenal. And when he started with us, he was really doing digital designs, not necessarily low fidelity or high fidelity wireframes. But what I did was, me being skilled in those, I taught him our systems, and now he's doing wireframes for some of our bigger clients. And so it's really looking at the potential of someone and seeing that they have the initial skill and being able to grow on that with operating procedures. And the platforms that I use, I've used all of them: Upwork, Freelancer, all these other ones. I've probably found the most talented folks on Upwork. And then in regards to the systems, and I'll put everybody onto this as well, we have local, both US based team members and offshore team members. There's a platform called Deal, DEL, where you can actually, it's similar to Gusto or Gusto, where US based, but if you have international team members, you can compensate them and take care of them through that platform. And it'll help you with compliance documents, anything that you need, taxes, and they actually get a bigger chunk of what you're paying as opposed to paying taxes through like PayPal or third party. So that's just kind of my 2 cents, but I feel like that would be a good way to add some value to your community.
Great information. And then just re-asking the question for Peyton, Raymond says, how do you make the decision to bring on more staff when the current budget is extremely tight? But without new members, you can't necessarily grow.
Yeah, that's another great question, because I feel like we're always maxing out. Our budget's always tight, right? Because the bigger we grow, the more we're hiring people and just trying to reach that next level. I fall back on one thing that I was told by a mentor, and I think maybe this is best to answer this just in this brief way, but I was told that paying somebody a full-time salary and trying to control their time is basically, it's the ways of the past, right? Like, we don't have to have this mindset that to hire somebody, I have to be ready to pay them a full salary and control their hours and give them benefits and all these different things. But we live in such a fluid, cool environment right now where we can hire people part-time or for, on a per project basis. And we can do different things like that. And even if, maybe we break even, or maybe on a project we lose money, but if that puts us in a position to then get ourselves out of there, it's going to be worth it. And so I would say hire even before you're ready, because then you in turn can step back and focus on things that will generate more revenue to loosen up that budget. So we've got a bunch of people right now on like a per project basis, right? Like we've got our core team, and then at any given time, we've got 3-4 different designers that do projects with us. And we've always got people that are kind of on deck ready to go, and we can scale it up, scale it down, do whatever we need to. But people are looking for work, and there's a lot of great talent out there.
Love it. Some really great advice there from both of you guys. So we kind of went over, setting up our agency for success. So now let's dive into finding clients. And so first question I want to lay on both of you guys is, let's pretend someone's starting off brand new, have little experience. What would you recommend to them to find their very first web design clients? Maybe we can start off with John and then give it to Peyton to answer that.
Man, I know this question is going to get some value drops. So there's a few ways. Now, if you're new to the game, you're not going to have you're probably not going to have brand recognition. You're probably not going to have a lot of brand advocacy or people like shouting your name from the rooftops, because you just haven't put a lot of content out there. So I think there's a few ways to approach this. One is create a few case studies. If you don't have any example work, doesn't matter. Rebrand a local company, do something where you can have 2 to 3 tangible pieces of, hey, this is what the website looked like before, and this is what it looks like after. Because when you're starting out, you may not have a lot of money, but you got time, right? So you have to start with creating some case studies, so that way you have some work to showcase, even if it's just your website. Webflow does an amazing job of having a template resource, and you can leverage a Webflow template, build it out how you want, and leverage that as your agency site, and then build out some spec projects that you can then showcase to local individuals. Second piece of that is you can do a bit of cold outreach, but you have to do it with a value add. So, and I think Peyton's spoken about this before, do a website audit, contact people directly, create a quick Loom video going over issues and things that they can make on their website. And then what you can do with that is you can leverage that into continuous content. So I always talk about showing your work and documenting your journey. Use social media as a catalyst to say, hey, this is what I'm working on. I'm working on this spec project, and this is how I'm building it out. This is the competitive analysis I did to come up with the header idea. So get all those ideas out. And even if you have 15 followers, one of those followers 2 months from now might be like, damn, I want to get a website done. Who do you think they're going to think of? So it's really going to come down to, creating that content, making sure you're having the spec project, and performing some of that cold outreach. I know that was a lot in a little bit, but I definitely think Peyton can definitely add to that as well.
Yeah, what you got for us, Peyton? How would you go about finding your first client?
It's funny because we keep doing this, but John, literally those are the first 2 things that I would have said, right? Like that's perfect advice. If you have 0 experience, your first step should be to get experience, right? And that doesn't need to be a client project, but it can be any project. But having something to show people is going to be really, really important. This question is kind of scary for me, just because it's easy for me to say, oh yeah, landing clients is easy, but we've kind of built up that, the reputation and our exposure. And so those clients are rolling in. And so the idea of having none of that and starting over, it's scary, but it's also exciting, right? I'm thinking about, if any of you follow Grant Cardone, I know some people like him, some people don't, but he was on like a TV show, right? Where he basically went undercover and had nothing, and he had to build his, revenue and make money and just hustle from the ground up. And I think that has a lot of cool examples of just doing whatever it takes. You can't sit back and work on the design of your personal website and expect clients to come banging on your door. Like, you've got to get out there, you've got to open your mouth. I always say start in your circle first, right? Like I would almost guarantee that every single one of you has at least one person, whether it's a family member, a friend, a coworker, somebody at your gym, at your church, that needs a website. And those are people that already trust you. They already know you. So why make it harder on yourself than it needs to be when you can start close to yourself, right? And then build out from there. And so I think that should be everyone's goal. Is you're not going to walk across the street and land that Fortune 500 company right off the bat. That's going to come down the road, but start slow and start close, and put yourself in a scenario where you can succeed, where expectations are maybe a little bit lower. Like that's what I would look for. If it was my first project and I wasn't super confident in my skills, I would want to put myself in a situation where it's a win no matter what, right? Expectations are low, budget's probably going to be a little lower, but that means it's less risk for everybody. Those are good situations to get that experience. And then outside of that, just like I said, just get out there and be consistent, right? Things aren't going to happen overnight. They may not happen in the first month or even in the first 3 months, but getting out there and just hustling and doing whatever it takes, the clients are going to come. We've all been there, and it does work out. It can be intimidating and scary, but it works out.
And going off kind of that, so I know a hot thing that a lot of new web designers are asking is whether or not they should offer or pitch people free work when they start. So I wanted to ask you guys' opinion. What do you think about offering free work to start off? Not sure who wants to take the lead on this one.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. Maybe I waver on this one because it's great to get experience, but I think every one of you that's watching this or is going to watch this, you're worth more than free. That's how I feel. However, if you're going to take on free work, let it be your decision. I think that's the best way to put that, right? Like, don't let somebody tell you that you're not worth anything and that you're lucky to work with them and you should do it for free because you're going to get exposure. Don't let people talk you into that. However, if you want to reach out to somebody and say, I've got the time, like John said, we've got time but no money, I've got the time, sure, we'll do something for free. We'll do a quick mock-up. We'll build you a quick website. Just make sure that it's your decision, and if that's the case, it's totally fine. Nothing to be ashamed of. But again, I think that every one of you at least, and this is something that we talked about a little bit for now, you and I in the course, is I think every single person, even those of you that have literally no experience, you could sell a $500 website without question. And so don't lower your expectations or kind of lose sight of your worth. But I don't know. I guess that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, and I would add on to that too as well. I think that, so from experience, I've done projects for free. I've probably done more than I like to mention. And, one thing that I've realized is it's just like Peyton said, right? Do it on your own terms. What I suggest is if you are going to do a project for free, set up stipulations or a quick and simple contract in the beginning saying, okay, let's say you're going to help a local computer shop, right? Build out their website. Okay, I'm going to build out the site for you. However, what I'll need is, an area where people can see that they can collaborate with me, or I can add, made by 54 Digital in the footer, or potentially, hey, do you have any computers that you're maybe getting rid of or modems? So you can kind of think about ways that you can barter where it might not even be, and the thing is, monetary value isn't always the most important thing, right? Exposure can maybe lead you to 2 or 3 other folks. You could say, hey, as soon as we finish this, just make sure you send a shout out to your email audience and then have, hey, X and Y, John and his team built this site. So kind of think of ways that you could potentially barter where you're not just giving it away 100% for free, but you're coming outside the other side with they have a beautiful website and you somehow cultivated this relationship that can ultimately lead to more leads. And here's the thing, I've done stuff for friends for free and I'm just like, it is what it is, and let that happen too. But like Peyton said, always have it be on your own terms.
Love it.
I really like that, just what John said, because it's like value and price are tied together no matter what you do, right? And so if there's some sort of exchange or agreement, they're going to value that work more, right? I would say that the more my clients spend, the happier they are because they value it at that higher level. And so that's different with friends, right? When you're doing something as a favor, they're going to value it because it comes from someone that they care about. But this question that just got asked, tips to not underpay yourself or sell yourself for cheap. I think it's just that, like, value and cost are directly tied. And so the less you charge, the less people will value your work and the worse they're going to treat you. But if you can charge more, that value and perceived value of yourself and your work and your talents are going to be directly tied to that. And so I think just remembering that we always want to lower our prices because we think it makes our services more appealing, but instead it makes them look less appealing and people don't value them. And that's going to lose you sales more than it's going to get you sales.
Love it. And while I have you here, Peyton, I did have someone message me a question. So Cindy was asking, so one of the methods you talked about getting clients is sending maybe like a Loom video, giving an audit of their website, to kind of introduce yourself. So they asked, what do you do when people aren't viewing your Loom videos, despite even maybe a follow-up or two?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I get this a lot. Actually, a lot of people have messaged me and said, I've tried your Loom strategy and it doesn't work, man. Like that's just bogus. And they think I could have done a better job of expressing this on the video, but that Loom video that I send, that's my anchor point. And most of the time people don't open those right away. But then when I cold call them, it's not really a cold call, because when they say, who is this? Why are you calling me? I'm going to say, it's about the video that I sent you yesterday. Did you have a chance to check that out? And all of a sudden they're on their heels and they're like, oh man, I didn't realize that you sent me a video. And then they're going to ask like, what was the video about? And immediately it's like, it's my foot in the door. And so what I would say is, even if they don't watch it, that's okay. But then the money's going to be in the follow-up, right? Cold call them. If they're not answering your emails, try to get them on the phone, send a follow-up email and say, hey, did you have a chance to watch the video? Some people aren't going to open it, but my most successful cold calls are the ones that I've already sent the video. It's sitting in their inbox, especially like the video that I posted this morning on YouTube talking about getting past the gatekeeper or the secretary. Like their job is to screen out marketers, right? But if somebody answers the phone and I say, hey, I'm calling about the website, they're going to turn me away. But if I say, let Sally know that it's about the video that I sent her yesterday, she'll know what I'm talking about. And all of a sudden it's like, oh geez, yeah, I need to pass this guy through to the business owner. So it's a foot in the door more than it is a selling function, right? And I think that's the best way to use it.
Love it. That's a really great answer, and thank you for that. And so kind of jumping off of that, talked a bit about finding your first web design client itself. And so now, we have a couple clients under our belt and really want to start getting into marketing things. So I wanted to talk about the different marketing channels you guys are currently using right now. Do you guys maybe have a favorite marketing channel? Where should someone be promoting their design business? Social media? Is it directories? Is it elsewhere? So maybe start off with John. What are some of your favorite channels to promote yourself on?
Yeah, so I try to keep it simple. I think that don't try to spread yourself too thin, because you can ultimately repurpose content, and as you build systems, you can delegate a lot of that content and create evergreen content over time. And I can get into that as well. But ultimately, my favorite platforms are, one, Instagram. A lot of web designers are on Instagram. A lot of company owners are on Instagram as well. And so what I do on Instagram is I have a strategy, and anyone can use this. It works wonders. It's called Show Your Work, right? Where it's each day I log in for 2 minutes and I say, hey, here's what I'm working on right now. And I show either wireframes or what the team is working on or our processes, and people love it. I mean, I get DMs every day of people that look forward to it. And I've actually booked business from this because clients, you're keeping top of mind. And to the point where they may not need a website today, but 3 months from now, they may need a rebrand and a website. A lot of startups and people in my ecosystem are on Instagram. So that's one. Two, Facebook groups, and Peyton probably knows this as well. Facebook groups are great because, one, you can add value to a group, and that's it. You just go in and say, hey, here's my value, enjoy. And you don't necessarily look for a return or referrals or anything, but what's happening is people are looking at your content, then they're going to your Facebook page, and they're going to your website, and now you're creating this feedback loop of consistent content over time, where they start to follow you and acclimate to the content that you're releasing. And then the last piece of that is just to be transparent anywhere you are, and just show your work and the things that you're working on. I think that's a great way to promote yourself and promote your business. And lastly, have side projects and little things that you work on, right? Maybe you don't have a ton of client business, but maybe you're building out a landing page for your favorite artist, or maybe you're launching a cool little side hustle or project. Be transparent in building that out as well, because I'll tell you right now, I have a business called blackillustrations.com, which is essentially a platform to download illustrations featuring people of color. And that has led to at least 10 web design projects alone, just that side project, because people see that and they're like, wow, who did this? And then they connect with our agency and it goes from there.
Awesome. Yeah, sorry guys, I got people mowing our yard just outside, if you can hear that in the background. No, I second everything that John said. I think that the best platforms to be on are those that you can commit to, right? Those that you can post consistently, be transparent. and you don't feel that pressure of sharing a perfectly beautiful piece of content, right? You know, like I see John's stuff all the time where he pulls out his phone, he's like, hey, check out what we're working on. And it's just super authentic. And that's the best type of content. And it's the easiest type to make, right? Because you're just basically saying, here's what's up today. Here's what we're working on. And so I love, I don't know which one of these I would put first, probably Facebook and Facebook groups, just because it's a great way to interact with a community, right? Like we've got our SEO and Webflow Facebook group. The coolest part about that is you build long-term relationships, right? Which is really awesome. I feel like it's a really intimate social platform. YouTube's been another one for me, which is weird just because my content isn't made for web design clients, but just seeing my face and sharing projects here and there. Like just this morning, I had somebody comment on a video that I posted about a car detailing company website that we built. And I literally just screen shared and walked through it. And he commented and he was like, hey, I love your work. I've got a detailing company. Where can I email you for, to give you my business? And so just putting your work out there anywhere. I think there are certain platforms that are easier to get that organic growth than others. But yeah, Instagram's great. And I need to be better on Instagram. YouTube's great. LinkedIn's a great competitive place, but it's a great place to put your work. So anywhere that you can just commit to, I think you're going to be able to have success.
Love it. So that's a bit about kind of getting clients into our funnel. So, we have these traffic of clients coming to us, reaching out to us now. So the next step is kind of going through the sales process, maybe jumping on a call with them, maybe jumping on a Zoom call, something to kind of close the client. And so, John, I was wondering if you could maybe talk about your sales process. How do you go about actually closing the client now that they've reached out to you and said, hey, I have some sort of interest in hiring you?
Yeah, definitely. I'll give you the whole kind of funnel right here in real time. So what we do is on the site, we have a form. It's about 6 or 7 questions that just ask like pre-vetting questions. Hey, what's the name of your business? What's the best place to contact you? What services you're looking for? One thing we always do is include, what's your overall budget for the project? And we always say, no, our minimum projects start at X. The best part about that is you're able to vet a lot of individuals initially to see if they fit into that criteria. And so what I always recommend is an agency. You're always going to have agencies that are either doing work that, you can't do because it might be like potentially a web app, right? Or mobile app development. We don't do that, but we can help with UI, UX, and website design. So we have an agency on this side that might do 100K, 200K, 300K web app projects. And then we also have web design agencies that might not be doing the work that we're doing at our level in regards to scale, that are a little bit more inexpensive than our agency. So we're sitting right in the middle. So as soon as they fill that out, they'll be able to know kind of what price point we sit in. And that will get rid of a lot of tire kickers, especially folks that might not be in, the bracket of where you want to be hiring clients or taking on clients. So I always recommend kind of having that note like, hey, what's your budget? By the way, our minimum and the exact verbiage we use is our minimum project, starts at 10K, right? So clients know, or potential prospects know, okay, this is where it starts. And then, so once they fill out that form, we have two ways. If they do less than that amount, we send them an email saying, hey, we have agencies that we recommend. We'll be happy to send them your way. If they fit that criteria, we send a follow-up email for them to book a time on our calendar via Calendly. So that part is completely automated. Then what happens is that person drops into our CRM on Asana, and now we can see that lead come in, and that's set. The next piece is when we get on that call, we just ask, before that call, we get a questionnaire, and then one of our virtual assistants goes and does like a preliminary kind of review. And then for that call, I'm on all those calls and I have the piece of paper and I have everything about that client. I ask specific vetting questions. And then after that call, we set up a proposal, and then we set up one more follow-up to go over the proposal and close the deal. And that's pretty much the entire setup for it. But it helps get rid of a lot of tire kickers, and the clients that are coming in that funnel are clients that have been vetted already. So you're not, wasting time not wasting time, but you're not taking any time talking to someone that might not fit the criteria that you're looking for.
Love it. There was a lot of great information there, and thank you for sharing kind of that funnel. And just to recap there, so have some sort of form that helps qualify them, get the information that you need right away. use some automation like a Calendly service in order to schedule these calls with you. That way it's taken care of itself. You know, you could have a questionnaire that either you or a virtual assistant utilizes to kind of just get some quick information. And I'm assuming this is probably like a 10-minute process that, you know, just quickly going through their website, get that. And then from there, you're jumping on the call, asking some questions, answering some questions, sending out that proposal afterwards. And then, of course, the most important part is at the end doing that follow-up in order to, you know, get some sort of response from the client to see if it's going forward. So love that. And then Peyton, going on to you. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and kind of the master to sales in my mind. And so how do you build confidence when you're on the phone or with the Zoom call itself? Just because I know a lot of people could be nervous, you know, getting on the phone with a client for the first time, or even if they've done it several hundred times itself, it can be nerve-wracking. So any tips on kind of gaining confidence when getting on the call?
Yes, I think the first thing that I would say is I get nervous before every sales call. Like my blood's pumping, like my heart's pumping. I'm just like, that's what gets us in the zone, right? So it's good to be nervous. It gives you an edge. Maybe there are some people out there that don't get nervous, but I think that's pretty normal for us, right? Like we're all human. I think the first thing that I would say, in fact, I'm taking a course right now. There's a YouTube channel I follow called Charisma on Command. I love the stuff they put out there, but it's literally all things communication, feeling confident, interacting with people, being likable. And I have their paid course, but they talk about how a lot of times it's like that loop where lack of confidence results in our body language getting like small and tight and nervous and fidgety. And so what we can do to counteract that is to open up, slow down our gestures, slow down our voice. And I constantly have to remind myself of this because I can be a fast talker. But having confident body language is huge because then that will translate to confidence in your voice, in everything that you do. Now, it's interesting because even on the phone, when people can't see you, that physical confidence is going to translate and people are going to feel that through the phone. And so what I like to do is rather than having like my phone right up to my ear and kind of hunched up, I'll put it on speaker. I sit back in my chair. I like open up. I get in a really comfortable position because that makes me feel comfortable and confident. And just create a scenario where you can feel that confidence. Like as dumb as it sounds, like I'll get myself a lemonade and I'll get comfortable, right? Like create your office. They're coming to you to speak to you, right? You're not going to them to speak to them. And having that mindset is going to help with that confidence. I think the other thing I would say is it just comes with time, right? I didn't feel nearly as confident selling when I only had one project under my belt versus when we have, a couple new ones every month. And it just comes, and that's okay. But be patient with yourself. You're going to be nervous before every call, and that's okay. Like I said, just show up and you're going to show up and you're going to do a good job.
I love that.
I love it. And so with this territory comes not landing every client that comes your way itself. And so one of the things I wanted to ask both of you is, how do you deal with the rejection when you don't land a web design client? And what are some things that people should be taking away, even if they don't land the client itself? Maybe we could start with Peyton and then go to John on this one.
Cool. Before every single call, I tell myself, I don't need this client. My family's not going to starve if I don't land this client. I try to lower the risk of it, right? And maybe that doesn't work for some, but I try to go into every sale feeling like I've got nothing to lose, because then if I do lose the sale, it's whatever. I'll move on to the next one, right? You can't get too emotionally attached to every single one. And not only is that going to help when they do say, or if they do say no, but it's also going to help just limit your anxiety about the call. So just set good expectations. You don't need this one. There's always going to be another one. And yeah, then it's not going to sting so bad when they do say no.
The same thing to you, John. How do you deal with rejection if you don't land a client?
Yeah. I'm pretty much.
I like John's like, I've never not landed a client.
Oh man, I wish, right? I think, for me, I try to, one, I'm not really like I don't even know if I'm a sales guy, man. I'm not really like, I'm like super transparent. I just answer questions, and, I'm not like the I think Peyton and I are similar in this retrospect, where we're not like the hard sell, like you got to do this right now. You know what I mean? It's more so, hey, here's the value, laid it all out, and then if they choose, hey, great. If not, there's other opportunities out there. So for me, I think a lot of agency owners, as they start to grow and develop more skill set and start to bring on more business, you start to realize like maybe this client just wasn't the right fit. And sometimes you'll get a project or a prospect and they'll provide you the red flags where you'll be like, nah, maybe this isn't the best project for me. So I think it's just, do the best that you can to your ability. You might have little things that you missed out on. Maybe you didn't answer a specific question. Maybe you didn't provide them enough detail on something. Take those notes and improve as you go. But ultimately, don't get down if you don't get that client that you're looking for, because if they don't see the value in what you offer, they'll probably find another agency, but that agency might not be doing what you're doing at your level.
Love it. And man, time has been flying. You guys were almost at the hour mark here, and I still have like so many more questions. I'm sure people could be watching for another 2.5 hours or so, but we'll probably save it. I know John will have to bring you back on for a future talk as well.
Oh, I'd be happy to.
But before we end this talk, one of the couple of questions that I wanted to ask both of you guys that I think I wanted to know about is kind of how has owning your own web design agency or business change your life? I know both of you guys are family people. I know, John, you have your son. Peyton, you have your family. And I've talked to Peyton numerous of times, and I know kind of what it's done for you. And John, I see you on Instagram and how you're able to spend all this time with your son and playing Monopoly and all these other fun games and stuff. And so I really want to know, like, how has owning the agency changed your life? How has it helped you? And what is some things people could look forward to when they kind of reach, that level of success where they have something like you guys do? Maybe John, if you want to start off.
Sure. Yeah. Having a web design agency is one, I love what I do. Every day I get to create and I get to develop and I get to work with an amazing team that just does a phenomenal job. And so I think with web design, you can essentially create the life that you want, right? You can take on as many clients as you want. You can niche down to a specific type of client and only work with those clients. There's so many different opportunities. And as you grow your agency, you can start to work on big picture. So now I'm more so managing the operations, looking at projects and putting in my 2 cents and recommendations. And so now I'm being able to start to hire. And I think that in the last year and a half, we saw this really dynamic shift in how people talk to agency owners. Before, as a web design agency, you would have to go in, sit down with the client, especially if they were having a bigger budget. You might have to bring in your team, do an entire report. Now that we have this almost remote and virtual ecosystem, now you can close clients that are doing bigger deals through a call like this, through Zoom, because now that trust factor has increased because everybody's remote, right? So the opportunity is there. And for me, I'm able to get off at 2:30 every day, pick up my son from school, hang out with him, and then I might work a session at night when everybody's asleep and do the same thing the next day. So as a web design agency owner, a few things that I love is, you work on your own schedule. And our team does the same thing. Like most of our team doesn't work 9 to 5. Some of them work 12 to 6. Some of them work overnight. It really depends on their preference. And so this remote economy has made it really a lot easier to build the life that you want. And with web design, because you can do it from anywhere, it's probably one of the most dynamic service-based businesses out there.
Love it. And the same question to you, Peyton, maybe. How has web design, owning an agency, changed your life, and what are some things people could look forward to with it?
Yeah, I love this question because I never would have imagined being in this line of work or in this situation or the type of lifestyle I have, right? Like I didn't know where this was going to lead. But I'm grateful for it. Like John said, I love what I do every day, which in turn makes me a happier, better, husband and father, which is good, right? Like you don't want to get off work and be totally burnt out, even though there are some days that I am. But enjoying what you do just it makes life better. It gives me more energy. And even though you don't like every day, there's a certain amount of pride and fulfillment that comes from having your own thing, something that you control and you get to grow and you get to make decisions, and it's very fulfilling. But the most important reason that I do what I do, and the best part about doing what I do is I get to spend time with family. We were out in Virginia Beach last week. We went for a full week with my wife's family, which was awesome. And I was able just to turn off, put away my laptop and then turn off my phone and kind of enjoy life too. And while I don't get to do that as much as I should, just because I like working and there's so much to do, it does give you that freedom to, to hang out with your family and spend time with your kids. Like I love finishing work early in the afternoon and hanging out with my sons and just chilling, right? Like it gives you the freedom to do that while also providing the lifestyle that you want to for yourself and for your family. So there are a lot of benefits that come with it. At times I get jealous of people that have a kind of a more standard 9-to-5 job, because I think, man, that would be nice to be able to completely check out at 5 o'clock, right? Like I never check out, but it's a good thing. I love every minute of it.
Love it. And then just to end things off before we kind of say our goodbyes, I wanted to open it up to our awesome guest, John. Do you have any final words for us? I know we shared a lot today, but was there anything on your mind you kind of wanted to let out or say before we say our goodbyes to you?
No, man, you guys keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be a part of this. And if there's anything I can do to help, feel free to let me know. But I'm just happy to be here and be a part of this community. So thank you.
Yeah, and we thank you. And for those of you who don't know, I think, John, you have a few courses actually, kind of helping web designers and stuff. I have one of his courses, Web Design Studio Accelerator, I believe it's called, if I remember the name correctly. So really recommend everyone check that out, and this, John didn't ask me to say this, like I legit bought the course, paid full price. And
that was the first thing I said. I was like, we got to talk about John's courses because he just puts out awesome stuff. So
we're gonna
drop a link below, and also check out his YouTube channel, Instagram. They're doing awesome stuff over there.
Oh, yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Check out all of John's resources. And with that, just want to say a big thank you. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. I saw we had, a larger group of people actually stay throughout the whole hour. So I appreciate you guys taking out an hour every day to come on and stuff. As always, we look forward to, hosting more of these events, hopefully having John back and other great resources for you guys to learn from itself. And with that, do you have any final words for the people, Peyton? Before we head out?
No, thanks for watching. Thanks again to John. We're going to have to do this more often, man, because there's a lot that I could learn from John, and I know everyone in the group could as well.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
And I appreciate it. Well, yeah, we'll have you on here again, but I think that's it, man. We're going to keep everybody updated with everything else going on in the group. But for now, everybody have a good day and a good weekend here coming soon.
Yeah. All right, everybody have a good one.
Cool.